Good morning, morning. Give me one sec here, just to check a couple things. All right. Cool. All right. Today we are talking about the top 5 reasons why you need to do lease options, why you need lease options in your real estate investing portfolio. So I've been doing lease options for about 15 years, and I've got some lessons in my portfolio. But more importantly for you today, I've got 5 top things that make lease options an incredible real estate investing strategy. So what I've got here are five things, and I'm going to put them in my trusty old hat, and I'm going to mix them up. So what I'm going to do is, in no particular order, I'm going to pull these out and give you the top 5. So, all right. So this is the first one: higher than normal cash flow. Okay. So when I first learned about lease options and the rent own strategy, the person who I learned the very basics from talked about 2 things, and they stuck out to me for many years until I actually started doing them. And the one thing that stuck out to me from those 2 things that he said were higher than normal cash flow. So the higher than normal cash flow, what that means is when you've got a rental property, your goal is to get cash flow, positive cash flow on the property. And when I started doing this, I had 5 doors and I had positive cash flow on all 5 doors. But it was like it was good cash flow. I mean, one of my mentors said, if you really do your numbers correctly, including, putting aside money monthly for capital costs, for repairs and maintenance, all that stuff, like you actually leave the money in, you should be cash flowing about $100 per door. Now, that was about 10 years ago. And, but the point is, $100 a month, even back then, wasn't a lot. But typically, buy, rent, and holds, you're not looking to live off the cash flow. It's difficult to live off the cash flow. Buy, rent, and holds are for long-term holding, refinancing, pulling money out, raise the rent, keep the property up, keep it going. This is a lifetime. So many people get into buy, rent, and holds hoping for, quick cash and, to, quit the rat race. Well, I was at 5 doors and I was positive cash flowing an average about 110 per door. And, there's no way I could live off that. 550K, $550 a month positive cash flow, right? Not enough to live off. So, how lease options work with higher than normal cash flow is typically the way I set my deals up like this are: the tenant buyer will pay the normal lease or rent amount each month that will cover, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, your pity. And they'll also pay an additional sum on top of that we credit back to them. We don't physically give the cash back, but we credit them back. So on average, my rent own deals, my lease option deals, cash flow $300 to $500 a month cash flow. So You might still be thinking that's not very much. I've got a property that cash flows 750 or whatever. That's okay. Slow and steady wins the race here. But uh, when I share the other four, you'll see how this becomes much more profitable, even only at three to 400 to $500 a month positive cash flow. So for me, that's one of the components that make the higher than normal cash flow. There's others that you'll see as I go through this. So the number one, it's not the number one, but my first one that I dealt with is higher than normal cash flow with lease options. Let's pick the next one here. All right, so structure them as no money down deals. Interesting. Those are the two things that I distinctly remember from sitting through a 3-day weekend, a real estate learning weekend, where the instructor talked about, probably 11 different real estate investing strategies. So he spent probably a total of 3 hours specifically talking about lease options. And these are the two things that stuck out to me: the higher than normal cash flow, which is what we just talked about, as well as you can structure them as no money down deals. And really, it was the structure and the no money down deals that helped me quit my day job in 2010, because I couldn't live off of 550 a month cash flow. And at that point, also, the banks were saying no to me for more mortgages. I didn't have, really a lot more uh, liquid capital for down payments, and the banks were just saying no more mortgages based on your current income and debt servicing ratio. So when I remember this about structuring these deals as no money down deals, it's like that really struck me. And so that was something that I zoned in on heavily, was figuring out how to do these no money down deals. So if you've been following me for a while, creative investor, you know how I structure these deals, these no money down deals. And basically, uh, let's see here. Last week, I talked specifically about sandwich lease options. Last Saturday morning, I talked about structuring them as sandwich lease options, where you've got an owner that already owns the property, and then you work a deal with the owner where you control and run the property. You find a tenant buyer, you put in the property, they put 5, 10, 20K up front as their down payment, and then they want to rent to own it over approximately 3 years. And so I control that deal with $100 check up front with the owner, which makes it legally binding. Money's been exchanged, it's traceable, and you've got the right contracts in place. So that's a no money down deal for me and for you. And there's lots of opportunity for them. So for me, I was able to scale that quite quickly and do them as no money down deals. So that's the second reason why you need to do lease option deals or in your portfolio, is you can structure them as no money down deals, meaning that you can grow quickly with that. So let's move on to the third one. All right. Built-in property managers to care for your property. Okay, this is a great one, because when you're starting out, you've got one property, or you've got 10, and you're the landlord, and you're essentially property managing them yourself. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But it can get exhausting, especially if you've got a house that keeps needing repairs, or if you've got a needy tenant who needs to text you every time something happens, which is not bad, but you didn't get in this to answer your tenant's texts at all hours, right? We didn't get into real estate investing to do that. We wanted a vehicle to get great returns on our hard-earned money, with as little headaches as possible. So, how I structure these deals when I've got a tenant buyer in a property, they've signed contracts and their goal is to purchase the property after, anywhere from 1 to 5 years. Three is the average. And so I give them what's called a new homeowner's manual, which teaches them how to care for the property. And then we set up triannual visits so that we can get into the property. We've got reasons to go in there, and you really don't need a reason to go in other than just check your property. But, you want to do it in such a way that isn't invasive for the tenant because they want a peaceful home. But my tenants are responsible for repairs up to, I've got some that are $500 a month, but it's either 1,000 or they're responsible for all the repairs. So what that means is, for example, in the new homeowners manual, change your furnace filters on a regular basis. Make sure you know which way the furnace filter goes in. Little things like that are maintenance related. If the toilet gets plugged, that's their responsibility to fix it. If an element on the stove goes, that's their responsibility to fix it. So I've got some of my tenant buyers who are oblivious on how to do any of that stuff. And so I will try to coach them through it, on the phone or text. And if I have to go down, I will. But I'm trying to train them to think like a homeowner, because when they make um, when they take care of regular maintenance issues on the home they're living in, it's going to last longer, right? A furnace, recently got into a property. We purchased it at a bit of a fire sale price. The water was shut off. There was leaks. There was pipe bursts, and there was a disgusting furnace filter in there. And so the furnace was running. We bought it in full, and so we took out the furnace filter. I didn't do a big inspection on the furnace, because I knew that we were just going to get it maintained once we bought it. Anyways, put a new furnace filter in. We got our guys in there to inspect the furnace and to do a thorough clean. And there was a second furnace filter that had got either pushed in or sucked in closer to the blower motor. That was just like, it had to have been 3 years old, and it was disgusting. So, could I have replaced this furnace now? I could have, but I want to extend his life. So I got my furnace guy to do a very thorough clean of the furnace to extend its life. But for a tenant buyer, it's in their best interest to change the furnace filters monthly or every couple months, depending on the season, depending on if they've got air conditioning or not, or, because it'll extend the life of their furnace. Tenant buyer, would you like to not maintain your furnace, do these simple tasks, and pay, $4,000 or $5,000 in 5 years for a new furnace, or, spend $50 a year on furnace filters, change them every month. Just don't even worry about it. Just change them every month. Put a reminder on your phone. Pay the furnace guy to come out, every late summer, early fall, to do a clean and a tune-up for 150, maybe $200. So, you're spending $250 a year maintaining your furnace over 5 years. That's $1,250. But you've got a furnace that's going to last a lot longer. So, Builtin property managers to take care of the property. So I don't have to hire a property manager and pay them, 10% of my income for my property. My tenant buyers are the built-in property manager. And so if there's an issue, they take care of the property. And, some people need a little bit more hand holding, others do not. I've got one tenant that the hot water tank went. And the deal with her was, we'll pay for $500 for no, you pay for the first 500, we'll pay for the remainder. So she could have called me and said, okay, we got to replace this hot water tank. But she called me, or actually she texted me and told me the problem. And it was a weekend. And it's kind of like, oh, I don't want to deal with this on the weekend, a failed hot water tank, water. Uh, you know, I don't want to get somebody out on the weekend because they're going to charge a premium for that. But then, 2 minutes later, her follow-up text was, we got it fixed. We put in a new hot water tank with the company and good to go. Just want to let you know. So that's my built-in property manager for that lease option, that rent-own property. So that's awesome because now I know that my tenants are looking after the properties, and we'll get in there minimum 3 times a year just to check out the property, see its condition. So that's another reason why you need to do lease options, is because you don't have to manage them the way you manage a straight rental, that you're responsible for plug toilets and the list goes on, whatever that is, blower fan on the heat on the furnace, that sort of stuff. So that's reason number 3. All right, we got 2 more here. Mix them up a bit. All right, solve real estate problems. So this is kind of one that's not really talked about very much. Solve people's real estate problems. So what does that look like? Solving people's real estate problems. Well, you know that you make money when you solve other people's problems, right? Let's give an example. I'm just trying to think of a really basic example. But, you know, uh, I needed I didn't know I needed it, but I need a quick place to jot down notes, right? Postit notes. Postit notes is solving someone's problem, and they've made a lot of money off of that. The bigger problem you solve, the more money you'll make. So when it comes to people and real estate problems, there's basically 2 types of people that we can help. We can help a landlord or a property owner that owns a property that they need help with, whether if it's, they can't get a good renters, or the place is trashed, and they don't know what to do with it. It's a problem for them. We can come in and we can help them. We can either partner with them, or we can help them fix them up for a fee. Or, what I do is I will put them into sandwich leases where they will keep the property for an additional, 3 years, and then I'll control the property, and then I might clean it up and fix it up a bit and sell it to a rent-own client at an increased fair market value price in, 3 years. So I've done lots of those, helping investors with their properties. And that, is a headache to them. I've got one right now that I got a message from a guy, and he says, hey, we got this property. It's totally flopped. It's vacant. The heat's turned off. It's a nice area, but we think that your rent-to-own strategy, your lease option strategy, will help solve our problem. Can you help us with that? Okay, well, let's talk. So I'm scheduled to go see that property, and so can I help them? We'll see. But it is definitely an opportunity for me. So there's lots of those opportunities, and once you start to understand that structure of helping people who already own properties with their real estate headaches, there's just so much opportunity there for you, especially to structure them as no money down deals. The other people that we help with their real estate problems is people who can't yet qualify for a mortgage, right? And most common people for me that I help is a family that have got either a poor credit score, or they don't have enough of a down payment and they want to get into home ownership, but they can't get a mortgage from the bank. And the most common that I see is people who don't have 7% to put down, but they've got like 2% of the purchase price, and their credit score is you know, under 600. You know, people who their credit score is under 450, you know, they need more time. We might coach them to do a couple things before they enter the program. Sometimes people, I've seen it, and I've seen clients where at a really low credit score, but we looked at what was going on, and we were able to get their credit score up quite quickly. And so that's through the process of, you know, advertising on Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji or Craigslist, finding families and individuals who want to get into home ownership but can't yet qualify for a mortgage. So, you know, they got to meet our initial criteria, which is typically, you know, they've got to have a solid job, a decent paying job that will cover the bills for the price point of home that they're looking to get into. And they've got to have some money to put down up front. And those are the basic criteria. Then we go deeper with them. Once we know that they've got that, we go deeper, and then we figure out how long do they need in the program. And so we're solving their real estate problem. They want to get into home ownership, and we can help them to do that. So, you know, if you're the type of person that loves helping people, this is a great way to create win-win and triple win opportunities to help people. You know, you can help the investor who's got the property that they don't know what to do with, and you can help families and individuals who want to get into home ownership but can't yet. All right, so that's the fourth reason why you need to do lease options. For some people, it's not a big deal. That, you know, some people just don't want to honestly deal with people, and they just want to invest in real estate, make returns. So that last one may not be for you, but I know lots of people love helping and serving other people, myself included. Okay, so just to recap, we've got one more. Um, we've got one more here, but let me recap. The first one that we talked about was higher than normal cash flow. Second one is you can structure them as no money down deals. The third one is you've got built-in property managers for tenants who care for the property. And the fourth one that we just talked about is you solve other people's problems. Okay, so the last and final one is that you can sell this property that you've structured as a lease option. You can sell it at a future increased purchase price with no vacancy and no realtor fees. So think about that for a second. This really could be three separate ones. I could say, okay, you need to do lease options because you can create a property that you won't have any vacancy costs. And why is that? Because you've got a tenant who's going to put down 5, 10, 20K up front that will help cover your vacancy costs if they leave the program. Okay, so that's one. The other one is, you know, so when you go to sell a property, it's difficult to sell a property with a tenant in it because it doesn't show well, or the tenant becomes belligerent and won't cooperate at all with anybody to see the property, um, or they'll move, right? And now you're left with a vacant property that needs a bunch of repairs, and you're trying to sell it. So now you've got holding costs on a monthly, as well as you got to get it cleaned up and prepped and staged to sell, right? So you've got no vacancy costs when you do a lease option with a tenant buyer. You've got no realtor fees because you're selling directly to the tenant. You are. And so if you're selling a property, you know, for $500,000 and you're paying a realtor, you know, 5% to sell the property, well, that's 25K of profit that you're losing. That when you do it yourself, because it's your property, you've got a tenant buyer in it, that's another $25,000 gained, right? So that could be a separate selling point on why you need to do lease options. So I said here, sell it at a future increased price with no vacancy costs and realtor fees. So what do you mean by sell it at a future increased price? So, as you know, real estate typically goes up in value. And, depending on where you're at, I know different markets, have different um, um, cycles of the market. And maybe you're in a down market, maybe you're in a flat market where properties just really aren't going up very much. So, I'm in Canada and I'm in a smaller province that is different from the national. So, uh, y- where am I going with this? Okay, let me back up. What I'm trying to say is that real estate typically goes up in value. Yes, there are cycles, up and down cycles. There's sideways cycles where you don't know what's going on, aka COVID period, and you don't know where it's going to end up. That sort of stuff that could happen again for sure. But as a general rule, real estate goes up. So I've got a property, and I will market it to my tenant buyer at these prices. And so let's just say that today's value is 300K and they need 3 years in the program. So what I do is I forecast out based on a bunch of factors that I use data today and where the market's been and where it's going based on just what's going on in my local market, what the MLS is saying through data in terms of year over year, and you anyways, this is combining information to figure out the future sale price. So uh, as an example, right now I would forecast out based on today's market in the city I live in. I would forecast out a 4.5% increase each year. So that's compounded. So I don't have a calculator in front of me, but basically, you take a 300,000 and you times it by 1.04%, and that gives you the price after 1 year. You take that new price, multiply it by 1.045% for 4.5%, and that gives you the price after 2 years, and et cetera, after 3 years. So that compounded price after 3 years becomes the future sale price. And so that's an incredible thing right there because you're making profit just with time. And what's not even mentioned in here is, you've got mortgage paid on over the 3 years as well. But let's just say that future purchase, that future sale price to the tenant buyer is, approximately $335,000. I can't do math while I'm live streaming. So in my head. So let's just say that you're going to sell it in 3 years for $335,000. You're not going to have vacancy costs and you're not going to have realtor fees. So that is a true number to you. Now, depending on what you paid for it, how much you put into it, that's a different story. But that's incredible. So you can start to see how powerful this strategy is. Now, someone watching might say, well, I'm not in real estate investing just to sell it. I get that. Every real estate investor needs buy, rent, and hold strategy, homes or apartments or et cetera, in their portfolio for long-term growth, for sure. I'm not telling you to stop doing buy, rent, and holds. I'm just saying that you need to have this tool in your toolkit because you're going to come across deals that won't fit your buy, rent, and hold strategy. But you put this lease option strategy on it. It's like, you go from not having a deal on your plate because you're looking for a buy, rent, and hold. And now this deal comes across your plate that you put your buy, rent, and hold, lenses on. It doesn't work as a buy, rent, and hold. But hang on a second. This could work as a lease option, and you could make $100,000. You could make $200,000. Now, I won't go into details how that's made right now because we don't have time for it today. But you just went from having no deal to having a deal that you're going to have in your portfolio for, uh, you know, um, 3 years as an example, and you're going to make some good money. If you structure it as a sandwich lease option, you may not make that much, but you'll make enough that it's definitely worth your time, and you solve some headaches and some problems, and away you go. So yeah, as a real estate investor, you need lease options. You need to do lease options because you're passing up on deals. So just to recap what I just talked about, and this is why you need to do lease options, why you need to have them in your portfolio. You can sell it at a future increased purchase price with no vacancy costs and no realtor fees. You can solve other people's real estate problems, help them out, and make money for yourself. You have built-in property managers that take care of the property for you. So you don't have to pay a property manager. And your monthly maintenance costs are low, if not nil, because, on your buy, rent, and hold condo that you've got, the tenant called you and said, we got a plugged toilet. You go over there and you find out that it's a mess and you're not going to touch it. You try to save money doing it yourself. You open the door and say, I'm not touching it. You call your plumber friend, she comes over and she fixes it and charges you $300. So your time and $300, your cash flow for that month is shot, maybe a couple months, depending on what it is. So yeah, you don't have those regular ongoing maintenance issue costs. So you teach and train your tenant buyer how to care for the property, and that saves you a bunch of money. You can structure these as no money down deals, which is a game changer for a lot of people because you can grow your portfolio quickly, and you can, like I did, quit your day job to do it full time. And finally, in the first one that we did was higher than normal cash flow on these deals. For all the other reasons mentioned, is why you have higher than normal cash flow. So, all right, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for jumping on with me today. If you'd like to find out more, you can reach out to me, creativeinvestor.ca, and or YouTube, Creative Investor U, as in university, and be happy to help you learn more about this strategy and see if it's fit for you. Okay, awesome, and have a great day. Talk soon.